Tupac actually escaping from the University Medical Center here in Vegas and relocating to New Mexico, getting protection from the Navajo tribe.
Tupac is in fact alive.
Tupac was bleeding, hunted, and supposedly hours away from death. But now a man claiming he helped Tupac escape says the world was lied to from the very beginning. He describes a brutal secret operation involving body switches and powerful people working behind the scenes while millions believed Tupac was dead. And the most disturbing part is that some of the details still don't make sense nearly 30 years later. What made this story explode again wasn't just another random internet theory. It was the fact that someone finally came forward claiming he was actually part of the escape. Not a fan, not a blogger, not somebody making vague predictions online. This man said he personally helped Tupac disappear after the Las Vegas shooting in September 1996. And the deeper he went into the story, the more unsettling it became.
Combs saw that it wasn't going to be resolved peacefully, and he protected himself by affiliating with these Crip gang members, and they took upon themselves to then kill Tupac Shakur.
Because the real question was never just, is Tupac alive? The real question was why so many details from that night still don't fully line up almost 30 years later. The man claimed there was a coordinated operation happening behind the scenes while the public believed Tupac was dying in a hospital bed. He talked about helicopter diversions, private planes, body doubles, Black Panther connections, and even claimed intelligence agencies later became aware Tupac survived. At first, it sounds impossible. Then you notice how specific the story becomes. Names, locations, timelines, security teams, witnesses, small details most people wouldn't even think to mention. And that's where people started paying attention. According to the story, the chaos actually began moments after the MGM Grand fight. Tupac had just left the Tyson fight with Suge Knight. Tension was already high after the altercation with Orlando Anderson inside the casino. Then suddenly, shots fired on Flamingo Road. Within minutes, Vegas turned into pure confusion. People connected to Death Row later described total chaos on the radios that night. Not regular phone calls, Nextels, walkie-talkies, different groups all trying to figure out what had happened at the same time. Some claim security teams were chasing leads immediately after the shooting. Others said there was confusion about which car the shooters were even in. That's where the Cadillac mystery starts getting strange.
Boss says when the rapper arrived to Las Vegas for fight night, he was informed of a planned hit on him. Now that's when the escape plan came into fruition, from planting a double in Suge Knight's BMW to a strategic aerial exit.
For years, people focused on the white Cadillac supposedly tied to the shooting. But then other stories started surfacing about a dark Cadillac with no license plates. Some witnesses claimed one thing, others denied seeing it completely. Even people close to the investigation contradicted each other years later. One minute somebody says they saw suspects running, another says they saw people chasing the vehicle. Then another person says they weren't even there when everyone thought they were. And in the middle of all this confusion, another story suddenly appeared. The helicopter. A woman later came forward claiming she saw Tupac being airlifted from the area after the shooting. According to her, there was screaming, police activity, and what looked like Tupac being rushed away in a helicopter. That story spread hard because it sounded believable. Tupac had been critically wounded. A helicopter evacuation didn't seem impossible. But later, another twist hit. According to the man claiming he helped Tupac escape, the helicopter story was never supposed to be real in the first place. He said it was part of a deliberate distraction.
When certain FBI agencies are looking for you, the first thing they're gonna do is block the airport so you can't travel out. So the best way to escape is through helicopter, private helicopter, to another state.
And this is where the story turns from conspiracy into something that sounds almost military. He claimed people connected to the Black Panthers intentionally pushed the helicopter narrative to divert law enforcement resources. The logic was simple. If authorities believed Tupac was escaping by helicopter, they would focus attention on nearby landing areas and medical transport routes. Helicopters have limited range. Police would naturally start monitoring every possible landing point around Las Vegas. And according to the claim, that's exactly what happened. Resources allegedly shifted toward the skies while the real movement happened quietly somewhere else. Then there's the emotional side of the story that hits harder than the conspiracy itself. The man described Tupac not as a celebrity during those moments, but as somebody terrified of being finished off if he stayed visible. According to him, once word spread that Tupac was still alive in the hospital, panic started building behind the scenes. He even claimed Jesse Jackson visited Tupac while he was recovering, and afterward, people around him became convinced they had to move fast before another attempt could happen. That's when the alleged escape operation supposedly accelerated. And once you hear what he says happened next, the body switch, the doctor, the private plane, and Tupac disguised as a co-pilot, the story stops sounding like a normal celebrity.
Going straight to the point. After the shooting, what's next?
Most people would agree with official reports that after being shot, rap icon Tupac Shakur was taken to UMC, where he died 6 days later.
According to the story, everything shifted once Tupac reached the University Medical Center in Las Vegas. Publicly, the world was being told he was in critical condition after taking multiple gunshots on September 7, 1996. Doctors were fighting to save him. Fans were praying outside the hospital. News stations were running non-stop coverage. It looked like the final chapter of Tupac's life was unfolding in real time. But behind the scenes, the story gets completely insane. The man claiming he helped Tupac escape says the hospital wasn't just treating a patient that night. He says it became the center of an emergency operation. According to him, Tupac was alive, conscious at certain moments, and surrounded by people trying to figure out how to stop a second attack from happening. And apparently the mood inside was pure panic. He claims Afeni Shakur and Gloria Cox were involved in private discussions with doctors while security concerns kept growing by the hour. Because remember, according to this version of events, the fear wasn't just that Tupac had been shot. The fear was that somebody might come back to finish the job. That changes the entire tone of the story. But the hospital story was only the beginning, because next comes the alleged meeting with the doctor himself. And the man says he personally approached a man named Dr. James Lover, the physician he claims helped fake Tupac's death. And according to him, this wasn't some dramatic Hollywood-style secret meeting in a parking garage during a thunderstorm. No dark sunglasses, no coded phrases. He says he simply walked in pretending to represent a business group wanting to donate money to the hospital, which already sounds like the world's strangest undercover mission. He claimed he had fake paperwork, identification, even a prepared explanation to make himself look legitimate. The doctor reportedly welcomed him in normally at first, offered him a drink, started discussing the business donation. He claims he placed $50,000 in cash on the table as an upfront payment for silence and cooperation. In 1996 money too, which was serious cash back then. But somehow the story still wasn't finished.
Can't go onto tribal land without the tribal council's permission. Boss says that's why Navajo land in New Mexico made for the perfect hideout. And while many may dismiss the premise as fiction, Boss says the information for the script came from people in Tupac's family.
Because according to this narrative, Tupac wasn't staying in that hospital long anyway. The next phase was escape. The man claims Tupac was disguised as a co-pilot for a private flight out of the country. Makeup artists allegedly altered his appearance enough to avoid immediate recognition. He was reportedly dressed in a co-pilot uniform and escorted onto a private aircraft by associates connected to powerful music industry figures. And the route was from Las Vegas to Barbados and then eventually to Cuba. Then he described the entire thing emotionally too. He talked about tension during takeoff, fear that authorities might already know, people hugging each other after the plane lifted off safely. He even described the relief like escaping prison. That's what makes this story so fascinating after all these years. Not just the claims themselves, but how cinematic every single detail feels. At this point, the story completely shifts from a celebrity conspiracy into something that sounds much bigger and far more dangerous. According to the man telling this story, Tupac was not simply being protected by loyal friends or random associates after the shooting. He claims there was an underground network involved, and the people connected to it allegedly had ties to the Black Panthers.
But this is not fiction. This is facts through certain people that I know.
Boss knows G-Money and Snoop Dogg, who collaborated with Tupac, and Boss's father knew Tupac's mom from their involvement in the Black Panther Party.
That detail immediately caught people's attention because Tupac's connection to the Panthers was already deeply rooted in his real life. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a well-known Black Panther activist long before Tupac became famous. Because of that history, when this man started claiming Panther-connected figures stepped in after the Las Vegas shooting, a lot of people stopped laughing at the theory and started listening more carefully. Things become even stranger when he explains what happened after the alleged operation succeeded. He claimed the Panther-connected figures thanked him personally and even considered him part of their circle afterward. According to him, they respected the fact that he had helped protect Tupac during such a dangerous situation. He even says they referred to him as an honorary Panther. Now that part of the story almost sounds unbelievable because the image itself is so strange. In the middle of a story involving shootings, secret flights, and fake deaths, there is suddenly a British man claiming he was emotionally welcomed into a Black Panther network. He even stated that he later got a Black Panther tattoo as a sign of respect and loyalty to the people involved. But then the story introduces a name that made longtime Tupac theorists pay very close attention: Geronimo Pratt. Geronimo Pratt was one of the most famous former members of the Black Panther Party and a figure surrounded by decades of controversy involving government surveillance and political targeting. At that point, the theory stopped sounding like a simple escape story. It started sounding like Tupac had allegedly disappeared into a political protection network. Then the story escalates even further. According to him, intelligence agencies eventually became aware that Tupac had survived. Yes, the story actually reaches the point where the CIA is mentioned. He claimed his brother had security contacts in the United States and later received information that authorities had discovered Tupac survived the shooting. According to him, this created fear among the people allegedly involved in helping Tupac disappear. He said his brother eventually relocated to South Africa because he became worried about surveillance and possible extradition concerns. Suddenly, the story no longer sounded like a celebrity rumor. It started sounding like an international secrecy operation involving intelligence agencies and hidden movements across countries. At times, the conversations became almost absurd because grown men were passionately debating old communication devices while discussing one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in music history. But underneath all the confusion was something much darker. Several people connected to the case openly accused certain security figures of behaving like both gangsters and police officers at the same time. That blurred line created distrust everywhere.
Boss says ultimately he wants Tupac fans to see the movie and decide for themselves. The man who plays Tupac, Richard Garcia, says he believes the rap legend did die in Las Vegas in 1996 at the age of 25, but his legacy still very much alive.
And that is one of the biggest reasons the Tupac mystery still refuses to disappear. Every interview introduces new details, every witness contradicts someone else, and every answer somehow creates even more questions. What keeps this theory alive after nearly 30 years is not one giant piece of evidence. It's the endless pile of small details that never fully made sense. People still obsess over Tupac's reported body measurements, the speed of the cremation, conflicting autopsy information, and witness accounts that changed every few years like somebody was rewriting the script in real time. Then came the promises of proof. The claimed footage from around the MGM had allegedly been handed to Ice-T to digitize. He repeatedly insisted there were unseen videos, hidden photographs, and even footage of Tupac allegedly sitting on a plane disguised as a co-pilot during the escape. Now that's the part where everybody leans forward. Because if footage like that really existed, it would probably be one of the biggest reveals in music history. But somehow the evidence never fully appeared publicly. People got teasers, promises, vague screenshots, and dramatic stories, but never the smoking gun everyone expected. And that only made the mystery worse. Was the evidence fake, hidden, suppressed? Or did somebody decide releasing it would create problems nobody wanted? That question still hangs over this story today.
You know, I seen a video with his pop. You know, the old school Black Panthers, they kind of like think everybody watching them. You know what I mean? But I don't think it was I don't think the government had anything to do with it. I don't think personally. I think it really happened. You know, Pac got into it with a dude from that retaliated. As you know, unfortunately that's the culture in our communities, unfortunately.
And maybe that's why the Tupac mystery refuses to die. Tupac was never just a rapper. He represented rebellion, paranoia, survival, political awareness, and speaking against power. So the idea that he somehow escaped and vanished feels emotionally believable to a lot of people, even if logically it sounds impossible. Nearly 3 decades later, Las Vegas still feels unfinished. And maybe the real mystery isn't whether Tupac survived. Maybe it's why so many people still believe he did.